Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Dawn Meeker, partner at Marcum LLP in the advisory group, and the newly elected president of the Professional Women in Construction, the Connecticut chapter. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the PWC and how it could definitely help different organizations and bring their networking together. Professional Women in Construction is a community of dynamic professionals representing women and men of all disciplines in the AEC industry. This organization provides the opportunity for connection, engagement, while offering industry programs, networking opportunities, mentorship, and a supportive and inspiring community. The mission of our Connecticut chapter for the past 20 years is to use all of our profits from our events to support the young men and women who are the future of our industry. Each spring, we provided scholarships in the amount of approximately 15 individuals for $3,000 scholarships, and we also do a separate donation to the Connecticut AEC Mentor Program. It's thanks to our members that we can fulfill our mission, but it takes a village to do this. If you would like to consider sponsoring an event, attending a program, or volunteering, or learning more about our commitment, please stop by our table and talk to us and ask us any kind of questions you would like to. It was at our PWC scholarship dinner a few years ago that I met our first speaker, Vincenzia Adduci. Her compelling story about her career captivated all of us, including the young scholarship winners. We are honored to have her here to join us today for her to share all this with you. Please join me in welcoming V to the stage.
Good afternoon. First, I would like to thank Marcum, Dawn, Kristen, Joe. Thank you for having me here, and thank you everyone for coming down here today. I talked to a few of you guys, and I think many of you might be experts in what I'm about to talk about, so hopefully I won't bore you so much. But thank you for coming today. My name is Vincenzia Adduci. You can call me V. I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and I come from a construction family. As you can see from the photos, that is sort of where I grew up, as you can tell. I love that photo because it reminds me of what it was before and what it is now. What it was before, we can talk about that later, but what it is now is what I'm going to talk about today. My family back in Ghana, they build roads and highways in Kumasi and Accra, which is two largest cities in Ghana, West Africa. When I was as young as 5 or 6, I remember early in the morning, a whole bunch of workers, maybe 60, 70 people, came to our house. My parents had 3 big trucks, and everyone jumped into each of the trucks. You see one of the photos up there. So construction is something that I've known since I was so young, and it's something that my entire family did. So now, fast forward. I've always been passionate about construction, but even now, I'm more passionate about construction and real estate development, because it goes hand in hand. My company, VASE Management, is a construction manager and a real estate developer. We are also sometimes a general contractor, but we prefer to be a construction management firm. As a construction manager, we oversee high-stake projects for government agencies, municipalities, and public housing, as well as institutions and non-for-profits, and also private clients. Our firm is legally responsible for delivering projects on time and on budget. We are a part of the project owners team during the planning process. We are also tasked with coordinating and executing the construction after the drawings and specifications have been completed. 70% of our projects require air bid bond and 100% performance and payment bond. We have a tight deadline and deliverables. As a real estate developer, VASE purchases existing buildings and vacant parcels for commercial development. As a developer, we are responsible for every aspect of the project. Excuse me. And as a developer, we also understand both from the owner's point of view and the construction management point of view. As when we do real estate development, we not only buy the property, we build it and we manage it. So we understand all sides of the equation. Now, I will share with you some of my understanding of the challenges in the industry that we face today and some of the practices that we have used to move forward. Let us begin. The construction industry has always faced major challenges. I'll talk about 5 challenges, and then I'll share 5 solutions using my own experience. COVID-19 was a significant turning point in our industry, and it is still having a lasting impact. Our way of doing business would never be the same. We were faced with ongoing challenges that just won't go away. Here's the first challenge. As a result of COVID-19 pandemic, there are still supply chain shortages, leading to long lead time items for the deliverables of materials and supplies. We learned that we do not manufacture a lot of our supplies and equipment in this country. Number 2, there were significant increases in the cost of goods and supplies. In many cases, the cost doubled, even quadrupled. To date, we still have not seen any relief, as many of us in this room are very much aware of. Number 3, there are still labor shortages every day. During COVID-19, as you guys remember, there were government restrictions on the number of people who could assemble. There were increases in hospitalizations leading to death. People were afraid to come back to work. So even though the restrictions have been removed, we are still faced with significant labor shortages. The fewer the workers, the higher the cost. Number 4, regulatory complexity. It means different things to different people. For instance, if you're a municipal agency or public housing agency, you have EEO compliance, that's the Equal Opportunity Employment and Compliance. You have Davis-Bacon's requirements. You have set-asides on either units, the number of units you want to build. You have so much ongoing paperwork that you have to produce to get your funding and oversight, and so forth. If you're a real estate developer, or if you're a construction manager, you also have zoning requirements, you have environmental compliances, you have fair housing, and you also have the same regulatory complexities that the public housing agencies and the municipalities are also facing. There's unlimited amount of paperwork to maintain, which is very costly to say the least. And if you're a contractor or a supplier, you are faced with having to get a bid bond to get the work, and the performance and payment bond to complete the work. From developing affordable housing to work site safety, to set-aside mandates and prevailing wage determinations, these are serious matters, and it's ever evolving. Number 5, liquidity has become even more important post-COVID-19. Why is liquidity so important? And why has it become so important post-COVID? We all know that you need liquidity to stay afloat and to keep the lights on. Let me give you an example of my own experience. I remember I won a very lucrative government contract in the millions. I was so excited. And then we didn't get paid for almost 5 months. Well, you have upfront costs. You have general conditions. In my industry, general conditions is when you have to pay the superintendents to oversee the work. You have project management. You have the bid bond premium, or the bond premium fees that you have to pay. We had back office expenses and staff expenses. We paid for 100% of the building permits, and so forth. These upfront costs can cost thousands of dollars. And this is no fault of ours when we were not paid for 5 months. We were working on a government agency project. there were several funding sources. Our application for the first payment had to go through several channels. These channels included the building department, the environmental consultant, the architect, the engineers, the owner's project manager, the owner's project manager's supervisor, the finance department, and the third-party sources of funding also wanted to review these requisitions. And during this process, you also sometimes have people on vacation. So when you have your application on the desk and the person's on vacation, you have to wait for them to come. So whether you're a small business or a large business, this cannot be easy, which is a liquidity problem. Another reason why liquidity is so important is that your bonding capacity is based large in part by your liquidity. As our bonding agent, Jeff Delden, Bahu was saying, as Jeff Delden would say. Let me give you another example. One year, I wanted to increase our company's bonding capacity. My bonding agency told me that I needed to show more liquidity to get a bigger bond. So I said to him, I said, Jeff, how do I show more liquidity? I need a bigger bond so I can get more work, so I can show you more liquidity. So talk about catch-22 for a small business enterprise, right? So I'm going to talk about how I solve these problems. Let's go back to my background. Growing up in a construction family in Ghana, running one of the largest female-owned, black-owned construction management and real estate firm in Connecticut, in Florida, and in Ghana has given me a unique perspective on how to successfully navigate the modern construction industry. Number one, we have to understand the owner's project goals and objectives, but that's not enough today. We also have to have a collaborative approach. That means that the owner, the construction manager, the design team, the building officials, the subcontractors, the suppliers. I was told that this will happen around this time, so why don't we give it about 30 seconds? For those of you that are not aware, that is a state emergency. So you don't have to worry about running outside.
That's a long 30 seconds.
See, everything is okay. The building is fine. So as I was saying, one of the solutions is the collaborative approach. You have to work together as a team. One of the things that we do at VASE is that we have to make sure that we understand the point of view of all the parties involved, whether it be the owner, the construction manager, the architects, the engineers, the environmental consultants. That's a bonus one. You think it's going to come back one more time?
3 times the charm.
All right, then, let's wait. Yeah, okay. All right, so I was talking about the collaborative approach, when all the team members have to work together. All have to work together for the ever-changing needs of the industry. I'll give you another example of how the collaborative approach can help a project be successful. Recently, while servicing as a construction manager, the owner wanted us, you're all right, 3 times is a charm. I think that's the last one. All right. Okay. So here's the second example that I wanted to give regarding the collaborative approach, why the whole team has to work together. Recently, while servicing as a construction manager, the owner wanted us to replace the existing elevator with one of a similar make and model. After analyzing the owner's request, we determined that the specification that was called for was for a proprietary elevator that was only constructed by a single manufacturer. In addition, it would take 8 months for the manufacturer to deliver the elevator. This time frame was completely unacceptable to the owner. It would have meant that the owner would not be able to meet their tax credit deadlines. Our team came up with an alternative recommendation that included eliminating the proprietary elevator, and in addition, we made sure that whoever was selected to manufacture the elevator could deliver in the time frame that was necessary to meet the tax credit deadlines. After we consulted with the design team and we got the approval, we went back to the design team and they updated the specifications, allowing other elevator companies to bid on the job. As a result of this collaboration, we were able to meet the project schedule. Collaboration also means that you have to work very closely with your subcontractors and suppliers. Depending on the stage of the design, this collaboration usually starts between 50% and 100% of the construction drawings. My experience has shown me that the sooner we get involved in the collaboration process with the owner and the design team, the better the outcome. Here's another example. We were hired for a project around the same time as the design team, when the project was at the SD, the schematic design stage. We were able to collaborate with the architect from the SD drawings to 50% construction drawings. By becoming involved in the early stage of the project, VASE was able to improve the constructability of the project and achieve the required cost savings and meet the budgetary requirements. Now, part of understanding the owner's goals and objectives is to get a clear understanding of the sources of funding that is part of the project. In some cases, there could be various sets of requirements associated with the funding. For example, CHFA, the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, they have their own design and construction requirements. The cities and the various towns also have their own building code requirements. The federal government has its own requirements. SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, they have their own requirements. Sometimes these requirements overlap and conflict. The construction manager and the entire team must understand the requirements, because failure to understand these requirements can lead to very costly delays. Why? Because you may have to redesign the entire project. And by doing that, it's going to take time, and time is money, as we know. Number two, we have to think about the scheduling and the timetable. This is critical, and we must identify the long lead items. For this program, I'll begin with the phasing and scheduling. The phasing process is more important than ever before, especially in post-COVID. Right now, we have supply chain fluctuation, and it's important for the construction manager and the design team to understand and identify the long lead items before the construction even starts. The design team now have to come with not just 1, 2, 3, but several alternatives, that is equal products, in order to meet the schedule. The long lead time items can also be ordered before construction starts to secure pricing. You can and you should try to negotiate what we call the early start agreement to purchase materials and to secure the pricing up front. Now, if the owner has a tax credit, they may have to meet the PIS, that's the place in service. And failure for the owner to meet these deadlines can cost the owner money that have to be paid back to investors. Number 3, what is constructability review? Well, I'll tell you what it is and why it's so important. As we are aware, the constructability review is ensuring that the project is buildable and cost-effective. How do we ensure that the project is buildable? The constructability review of a building depends largely on the quality of the design. If the design documents contains errors and they are difficult to read, chances are the project will be difficult to build, and therefore a constructability review is used to identify the obstacles before the construction starts. One of the key components of the constructability review is the coordination of the architect's design and the mechanical drawings. One of the things that we love to do early on is we have to check these checks and balances. Because when the design team efforts are coordinated poorly, then the drawings of one of the disciplines does not align with one of the other. And if these errors make it to the construction drawings, there's a chance that the building will end up in a deficiency, or a change order will be needed to resolve the problems. It is important to make sure that you focus on the coordination between the architect, the design team, and the mechanical drawings. And if you have environmental components, you also have to make sure that the environmental drawings are in line with the architectural and engineering plans. In our roles as a construction manager, our team must ensure that the architects provide the mechanical team with critical information in a timely fashion, and vice versa. The communication and the collaborative efforts is very critical at this stage. Number 4, one of the factors that good construction managers must take into account is the regulatory complexity. Our friend is back. Number 4, one of the factors that a good construction manager must know is the regulatory complexity. Regulatory complexity should not just be the responsibility of the owner. It should be the responsibility of the entire team and all of the stakeholders that are involved in the project. It would be best to study the funding sources and requirements that are involved. I was involved in one project where there were 7 different funding requirements. You have to understand those things before you get into a project of that size. Number 5, you must resolve the cash flow challenges. So how do you resolve the cash flow challenges? I think it's easier said than done, right? Well, all organizations are different, and everyone comes to the table with different strengths and skills. Now, I'll share with you some of the solutions that I use to address the liquidity challenges that I just spoke about. Remember I talked about trying to get a bigger bonding capacity? Well, I got together with our bonding agency, who are absolutely great. When I got together with our bonding agency, they told me some of the deficiencies that we had in our financial statements. That same week, I got together with our accountant, with our legal counsel, with our lending institution, and we came up with a plan. It took about 2 years. It was very challenging, but we were able to identify the weaknesses that were in our financial profiles. And again, as a teamwork, our bonding agency, our CPA, our financial institution, was able to bring us to where we wanted to be. It wasn't easy, and we are still working on it every day. And we'll probably be working on it for the unforeseeable future. But we keep growing, so you must keep working on these things. One of the things that we also do when it comes to solving all of these problems is that we look toward our mentors and our trusted allies, and we run and bounce ideas by them. And through that effort, VASE has been able to truly understand the industry, the market, and how to face some of the challenges that comes to us. It continues to be something that we work on every day, but we do work on it every single day. So, navigating the construction industry and overcoming the challenges and building a successful future, I will end with what I hope is 4 uplifting quotes, and hopefully it will provide you some motivation. Number 1 of my first quote: make the most of every opportunity. Now that's the Bible, Ephesians chapter 5. Number 2, I will prepare, and someday my chance will come. That's Abraham Lincoln. Number 3, It always seems impossible until it is done. That's Nelson Mandela. And number 4, there is no force more powerful than a woman determined to rise. W.E.B. Du Bois. Thank you for coming and thank you for listening.
V, you have quite an incredible story. And what we decided is we're going to have a little bit of a fireside chat. But once again, anybody here who, make yourself comfortable. You have an incredible story, and it was wonderful getting to know you and talking to you. What advice do you have? I mean, when we spoke about a week ago, we were talking about working capital and equity being the lifeblood to the construction contractor. You came here to this country, you started from scratch. How did you build this company to how you built it, just having such a thin balance sheet? Obviously, I know that you worked with Jeff Deldon and your CPAs and your law firm, but are there any secret nuggets? Are there any secrets or any advice that anybody can learn?
The biggest secret is that you simply just keep going, no matter what, because the minute you stop, it's over. So I think as long as you keep going, I mean, when we started the company, I think I remember when the company had less than $50 in the bank account, right? That's starting from scratch, right? So you start there, and then you work on smaller projects, and you get into the thousands, and you get into the millions. But as I said earlier, you don't do it alone. It's a team. We are in the construction industry. You don't build a building by yourself. So it's that collaborative effort that I keep talking about. It's that whole team. It's like it takes a village. Now, in this particular example, it's just working with the team, listening to the advice and actually implementing on it. I remember when we first started, I think the first bonding that we had, I'm pretty sure it was under $250,000. And I made it our mission to work smaller projects, to understand, because I knew that if I made a mistake, it's better to make a mistake on a smaller level than it is to make a mistake in the millions. So after doing several projects and working on several projects, and our bonding companies here will tell you our bonding has never been called, not even insurance. So we're very calculated in what we do, but we also work in the pace that we believe we can handle. So the secret is starting small, making sure that you pick only the projects that you know you can do. And when you feel that you are ready to grow, then you grow. So that is what the secret is start small, don't give up, and don't take more than you can bite.
How often do you collaborate with your teams? I heard you mention several times that you like to bring people together. Is that on a weekly basis? Is that on a monthly basis? And the team internally and also externally, because you mentioned all the other agencies that you work with. That's an awful lot to balance, and being a successful business and doing what you've done. Are there any best practices there?
Yes, so there's two parts. There's the internal collaboration, and then there's the external collaboration, right? So our company, as a construction management firm, before the external comes in is the internal. We have an estimator. That internal piece, when we are going after a job, when we're looking to bid the project, is our internal team where we review the project, we look at the site, we meet, if necessary, every single day about that particular job that we're bidding on. And then when we are awarded a job, internally, we have to decide what superintendent we're going to put on the job, what project manager is going to oversee the job, and who's going to be the one communicating with the owner or the architects or the engineers. We decide that internally. And then after that, we focus on the external. Then we have to make sure that we understand the architect, the engineer, the owner, their goals and their objectives. And once we understand these two, then we bring those two together. So then we do that for every single project. So I think the key is making sure that you focus on, you could have multiple projects going on at the same time. I think we were just awarded recently 24 houses by the Housing Authority. We're not going to do 24 houses at once. So what we do is we focus on one house at a time. But that same practice is what we focus on the rest of it. So it seems like it's a lot, but it's the same thing that you do, just multiple.
Very interesting. Being a woman minority in the field, running a successful company. What challenges have you experienced?
I think there are challenges that you experience that you just don't really notice anymore. I mentioned to you guys I grew up in Ghana, West Africa, and I remember when I was very young, because my mother, in Ghana, I come from a place called Dichemso in Kumasi. You don't know, but it's in Ghana. And I remember my mom being the only woman that was in construction. I say that because that truck that you see, one of them is driven by my mom. I mean, she was on the field.
I think you're on that truck, too,
I am
right?
on that truck,
That's
if
what
you
I
look at
thought.
it close enough, right? Because I used to love to sit in the back. My mom says, if she dies, I'm going to kill all of you. So, but growing up and looking at those pictures, you never saw any woman there, but my mom was always there. And I think, I remember now that, there were whispers, why is she there? Why is she doing this? Never really thought about it because I think she just kept going. So fast forward to being a woman in the construction industry here also, I'm sure that construction is not a typical industry for women. I love it. I love what it represents. I love seeing something beautiful created when it's all said and done. It's just something I've always done. So I think it is a challenge. I know that it's not typical, but I tend to just focus on the work and what I have to do. If it comes up, all right, I'll address it. But if it doesn't come up, and if it's not important, I don't focus on it too much. But I think that there has to be awareness of more women to come in the construction industry. I hope that that will continue to grow. That's why I love PwC.
Ah.
Yes.
Can you share with us your goals? Where would you like to be in 5 years from now? I heard you speak a little bit earlier. You're in Connecticut, you're in Miami, Florida, Ghana, and soon Kenya. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? Your vision is incredible, and how do you plan to get there?
So that question was asked of me about 2 years ago when I was doing just construction in Connecticut. And I said that I wanted to go and expand into Florida and Ghana and Kenya. So that is still the goal for the next 5 or 7 years. So in that time, I would love to have more commercial properties here in Connecticut. We'd love to do more construction management and general contracting. At the same time, I would love to grow what we're already building in Florida and Ghana. We started 50 units in Ghana, West Africa, so I'm very excited about that. For most of you guys that may or may not know, Ghana got our independence in 1957, right? So 1957 is not a very long time ago. My parents were born in the 30s, so you guys can put the math together. So it's still a very new country. So to be able to go back and build there is an excitement for me. So the goal for the next 5 years is to continue doing what we're doing here, but also to continue expanding on what we're doing in Florida and Ghana. And we have not started Kenya yet, but eventually Kenya.
Can you talk to us a little bit how you perform your work? Do you self-perform any of your work? Do you subcontract it? How do you work your business, and how do you develop business in other areas? Because things can get very complex very quickly.
It does.
Especially in other countries.
It does. I think the biggest part of our business, especially as a construction management business, you are only as good as your team. So we put such a high stake on hiring. We have to simply hire experienced people. We hire estimators, we hire project managers, we hire superintendents, project engineers, but all of our superintendents now has carpentry experience. You might want to know why I want to make sure that our superintendent can do carpentry experience. Because as a construction manager, we don't actually self-perform. We work the same way as a Turner Construction or White and Turner. We don't self-perform. But if we have to get a punch list completed, and it's a small punch list, and the subcontractor is not doing it, my carpenter will do it, and I'll back charge it like there's no tomorrow. And I don't feel bad about it. So we have to be creative in the ways that we work that benefits, of course, first and foremost, the owner, the end user, but also make sure that our team is intact. So yes, so as a construction manager, we hired Division 2 through 16. That is site work, concrete, moisture protection, electrical, plumbing. We hired all of the divisions. So sometimes we do work as a general contractor where we buy when the drawings are 100% completed. We prefer to come in as a construction manager where we can actually work with the architects, where we can actually work on the constructability review and make sure that any deficiencies doesn't make it to the 100%. I'll give you another quick example. We were doing a project at a school, and this particular project we were hired 100% drawing, so we were hired as a general contractor. At that point, if we are awarded the job, what isn't on the plan is a change order. But I can also see that a lot of the deficiencies that made it to the 100% of the construction drawings is because the architect, the environmental consultant, and the engineers did not coordinate. So there were several deficiencies in that. But the way we work is we essentially buy the work as a GC or as a CM. We bond it 100%, and then we manage it with our own workforce. So at any given project, we're working with about 12 to 15 subcontractors.
And you know, the lifeblood of this whole business is making sure you capture the change order. If there's a change in scope, you get the appropriate signatures signed off. You jump on that really quickly. Can you help share some advice for the contractors in the audience when there is a change order and we say there's only 6 lights in this room and the folks change it to 10 lights? Very often when people are out there in the field, they just go ahead and do it without getting the appropriate paperwork. And as long as I've known you, I hear you mention that as soon as it comes up, you get a change order and you paper it. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Kim is here. Kim works with VASE. Kim knows. So one of the things that when we do our pre-construction meetings before our subcontractors go in the field, I will say, and I will make sure that I will repeat it 3 times, 4 times. To the subcontractors, we have a pre-construction meeting. All of the team comes together. I tell them, bring your calendar because we're going to come up with this schedule together. But one of the things I always say to subcontractors is that if you see a change that is going to result in a change order, do not do the work without telling us because we have to get approval. Now, once in a while, they forget. I'll give you an example. Electrical contractor went and disconnected the wires from the building because it's fine, but he thought it was a good idea. Brought me the change order. And I told him I'm not going to pay for it. And he said, why? I said, remember when we had the meeting and we said, any changes without consulting us is going to result in non-payment. What can he say? Was he happy? No, he was actually pretty mad. But what can I do? So we make it very clear that all the changes have to be approved. Sometimes if it's a legitimate change order and we think we can fight for if the contractor, if it's real, we'll go to the owner and we'll ask them, this is a change order. Until the owner signs off and approve it, we're not doing the work. And if there's going to be a delay as a result of that, we're going to put the owner on notice because it's two-way street. So if you don't approve the change order, I'm not going to do the work. And if I don't do the work and it's delaying the schedule, I'm going to put you on notice so you know that you are the cause of that.
I was going to ask that. So the notice goes out immediately?
It goes out immediately. It has to, especially when we are working about 70% on our projects for government agencies, institutions. The deadlines are very, very strenuous because if I don't meet the schedule, they will come after us. So therefore, the feeling is mutual.
Interesting, interesting. You started out in construction, and then you moved over into real estate. How soon did you move over into real estate, and why?
We moved over to real estate because we needed a second source of income. One of the things that we realized is that we were very much heavily involved in construction management, working for government agencies, working for institutions, and at some point decided that the company needed a second source of income so that you have that balance. It made sense to go into real estate because I knew that it would not be capital intensive for this, well, except for the purchase part, but we can use our own construction arm to develop it, and we can manage it, and we can save money because we don't have to hire a third party. So we moved into real estate a little bit before COVID. I think our first real estate building, which is completed, but we started, and then I think 2 or 3 months into it, COVID hit. But we still got it done. But we moved into real estate because It was something that would keep our staff busy, ongoing, and it's something that also signifies sustainability in the long term. So we have now, if you add the one in Ghana, we're going to be very close to 70, 80 units take a leave if you add the Africa units.
In my role as national construction leader at Marcum, I see our clients, the number one issue being labor, and number two, still supply chain. I see that getting better. I see our friends here, and thank you, from ABC and AGC, and my friend and client, Doug Winston, from Bring Back the Trades, really trying to get people into this industry because it could be a wonderful industry.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with the labor issue? You touched on it, but I'd like to just dig a little bit deeper to see, is there anything that you're doing differently that we could learn from you?
It's not easy, so we struggle with that every day. We're looking always for new, experienced, skillful people for us. So we go to Indeed, the ZipRecruiter, the word of mouth, the website. We even tried the headhunters, but they're crazy. They want 20 to 30%. Wow, that's a lot, which isn't bad. But the problem or the issue with that is if you have to put up 30, even one person said almost 40%, then first of all, what else are you going to use to pay the person? And second of all, if you're paying a position so high, you cannot be competitive in bidding the job.
Sure.
Because that all comes into factor. But we use a number of different channels. What has worked for us actually pretty well is Indeed and word of mouth, meaning just asking engineers we know, architects we know, subcontractors we know, do you know any guy?
You mentioned a couple of things earlier, COVID-19, and you mentioned supply chain. How are you keeping up with the material price increases? You sign a contract and prices go up a month later. How are you not getting a gross profit fade on that? And what are the best practices to protect you for price escalations?
So price escalation, it depends on who you're working for. So if we're working for an institution, I'll give you an example. We started a project for a school, and the AHU units that they specified, the day the project started, and they specified it, so we went to the same manufacturer. The day we started the project, the price went up. So we told the owner, we asked them 2 questions. This is what you specify. Here's the letter from the supply house. The costs have gone up. You can either pay the premium, or here's an alternative product, because now they're speccing multiple products in the RFP. The manufacturer said, well, you can have this product. It's going to be the same price or maybe even a little bit less. And then we asked the owner, how do you want us to proceed? But that's a question that when it comes up, I don't answer that question. I impose it back to the owner, because we know that it's not within our control. But the other thing also is that we've been able to secure, if we can secure early purchase, we can lock in the price.
Thank you. Any questions from the crowd for V? I know I had some come in earlier. That's what I took down. But anybody have any questions for V? I have lights in my eyes. I can't see. If I do not see any other questions, I have one additional question for you. And thank you for letting me ask my questions right off the cuff without warning you about any of these. But I see your growth. I see you going into a whole bunch of different areas. I could tell you what I see our clients doing who are in the growth mode. They're doing joint ventures with other contractors, right, to help deal with the labor issues and the bonding issues, because now it's 2 companies together, which brings in another host of issues, and they're setting up entities for the JV to do those particular jobs. I haven't heard you speak about that. It's interesting how you're growing this company and the rate you're growing this company. Have you ever done a joint venture with another company?
I did one joint venture with another company. It worked out good. One of the things that I learned from that was, I think every company is different. The way that we like to run projects sometimes may not align. So one of the things that I've been doing is just working with our bonding company to increase our bonding capacity and working projects that fits within our bonding capacity. We have control over it. So I have done one joint venture before.
Jeff Delden told me earlier you have unlimited bonding capacity, so don't worry about that anymore.
Where's Jeff?
A question?
I heard that.
Hold on, could you bring the microphone here?
I can yell.
Okay, and I'll repeat it too.
Jeff, you heard that, right?
Jeff, is that true, my friend? It's
Not really about construction. I'm just more curious about the difference between doing jobs here in the United States and doing jobs in West Africa.
so the question is the difference in doing jobs here versus other countries, i.e. West Africa. Supply chain, labor, all those other issues.
Yeah. Sure. I'll give you a couple examples because I just started doing building now. Remember, my family, my sisters, they all do road construction because we come from, I'm actually the only one in my family that does building.
We won't hold that against you.
All right, good. All of my sisters do road. So I'll give you an example from their point of view because we talk. Then I'll give you an example of my experience with the supply chain. So what I did was, in the project that we're working on right now, my sister was able to connect me with a major general contractor in that location where we are working at. And also, we have an architect and engineer. So we had a conversation with them about how we're going to approach the supply chain. Luckily, Ghana has a lot of supplies and materials that you can get locally, but not all. But some of the stuff we can also get from, let's say, China or the United States or even Europe. They were able to give me a list of their experience and the long lead items bringing stuff into the country. Mostly the MEP stuff is coming out of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing stuff. Equipments are coming from different countries, but the labor is not like here because Africa, people are driven and they need the work and they have to work and they're constantly working. So from my family, those people that I know in Ghana or in the circle that I know, they don't have the same labor shortages that we have here. It seems like they get unlimited applications of skilled laborers, and here is different. I think it's just a different drive. I'm not sure why it happens here and doesn't happen over there. But as far as getting the supply chain and getting the materials, we have a list of what we can get and how long it's going to take. Just have to put that in consideration of the schedule and the phasing plan, and have to know what to order early. But luckily, a lot of the stuff is done and produced locally in Ghana. I can't speak for all of West Africa or Africa in general, the continent. But in Ghana, in the areas, a lot of the stuff are produced, the resources are local. Does that answer your question? Okay, no problem.
V, thank you for sharing your incredible story. We're out of time, and sharing a lot of details about your business and your thought leadership. Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.